Hello, YouTube world. I want to talk to you today a little bit about what's going on in the media, just all of this madness. So, let me start by just playing a few quick clips.
This is now a pandemic of if the unvaccinated blame, who is? The anti-vax are criminal at this point. They're taking away the future of this country. It's all, I have a right to infect my house, to infect my community, to kill everybody. It's like drunk drivers. You don't have the right to go out and drink and drive and put everybody else at risk, including your own life at risk.
Part of the metric here is ignorance, but part of it is also arrogance, this misplaced sense of righteous indignation and resistance that they believe is a false manifestation of freedom.
And all these people are saying, I don't want to put this stuff in my body. They're out drinking on the weekend and putting other substances in their bodies. That's way worse for them than a vaccine. So come on, let's be real.
So, they're taking the mask off and really showing you who they are at this point. And I did have to be careful. I had to mute it out on a few of those words, and you know what those words were. It was that V word that I had to mute out. We've got to work around the algorithm. Living in this communist country we're in right now, I apologize for that. I've got to mute out a few of those words, but you can see now how aggressive they're getting in demonizing the people that have not received the jab. And, it probably won't be long before they just go ahead and start, turning that into talking about the Christians and those that follow Jesus Christ. You can see this progressing, and pretty soon it's going to go from the unjabbed, and they're just going to straight flat out call them the Christians and the followers of Jesus Christ. But you can see the tactics they're using, calling them criminals, killers, all people that have not taken the jab. Another popular one they like to go to, is the Gavin Newsom, the drunk driving bit. That's one of the really popular.
It's like drunk drivers. You don't have the right to go out and drink and drive and put everybody else at risk, including your own life at risk.
Part of
So we see Gavin Newsom there going with the drunk driving bit, and that's one they've all been instructed to use. You can tell that one's coming from the top of the pyramid, is to use, which is just an absolutely absurd analogy, is this drunk driving bit, trying to compare people who have not received the jab to drunk drivers. But that's one that they're just wearing out like a broken record over and over and over and over again, is the drunk driving bit. And so, that's what we're seeing here, calling the people who have not received the jab killers, criminals, comparing them to drunk drivers, saying they're a dangerous threat to society. They're not mixing any words now. They're starting to really pull the mask off. And what this obviously is starting to look a lot like is Nazi Germany, the way they spoke about the Jews, the way they're demonizing the people that have not received the jab. This is, I wasn't around back then, but I have to imagine this is very much what it looked like in Nazi Germany in the late 30s and 40s when they started to demonize the Jews, before they started taking them away to the concentration camps. And let's look at one more clip along those lines. I think this is from
This is banning mask mandates.
I think this is from ABC's The View.
Mandates, even though Florida has more kids in the hospital than any other state.
You're just short of calling him a negligent homicidal sociopath, because that's what he is. This dangerous criminal. He's risking the lives of children's parents, their grandparents, anyone they may come in contact with, so that he could appeal to his white supremacist base.
Oh, wow.
And so, of course, there we go. They're the killer, criminal. Here's the words we're getting now. They're talking about DeSantis here, and I don't trust Ron DeSantis. I'd imagine an actor like the rest of these politicians, but Florida tends to be a more conservative state, so they're using him as the whipping boy here, and the scapegoat.
Calling him a negligent homicidal sociopath.
Negligent homicidal sociopath.
Because that's what he is. This dangerous criminal.
Dangerous criminal.
He's risking the lives of children, children's parents, their grandparents, anyone they may come in contact with, so that he could appeal to his white supremacist base.
And of course, they've got to add in white supremacists there. So they're covering all the bases, dangerous, homicidal, criminal, white supremacist. I mean, I got to play that again just to hear her rant.
A negligent homicidal sociopath, because that's what he is. This dangerous criminal. He's risking the lives of children, children's parents, their grandparents, anyone they may come in contact with, so that he could appeal to his white supremacist base.
So at this point, this has gone bonkers and completely off the rails. A good friend of mine, about a week ago told me, she feels like she's living in a horror movie. And that's a good way to put it. It really is unbelievable that now if you turn on the TV set, this is how bold they've gotten with the rhetoric. They're not holding back, where they are just absolutely bonkers, off the wall now. Anyone that's not taking the jab, or anyone that is not, just completely lock and step in line with this NWO lightning speed, satanic beast agenda. They're calling you a criminal, a killer, a sociopath, white supremacist. And of course, because all the media is bought and paid for, they get away with saying all these things. They can slander anyone's name they want and say whatever they think, and it's just madness. And what has happened, I'll give a shout out to Brother Waldy over at Revelations of Jesus Christ Ministries, a great YouTube channel. He talks about in witchcraft you have three stages. You have manipulation, intimidation, and domination. And that's what we've seen with this jab, the juice. They started out by manipulating, trying to make it look really good, offering everyone free gifts and free donuts, beer, plane tickets, lotteries. And that worked for a bit, but that stalled out. So then they moved the intimidation, and that's kind of where we are now, of just trying to beat people down and slander them and demonize them. And we're kind of moving from intimidation to domination, where now people are losing their job and losing their civil rights. So we're in the intimidation, kind of moving into domination aspect of this. And it really is incredible to see just how bonkers and off the rails this is, and how American society is just accepting this and going along. It shows how dark, people have gotten. And the unfortunate thing is this jab, this juice, is changing people from the inside out. It's changing them. And I got to be careful with my words, but I think you know what I'm talking about, how on a molecular level it's changing them. And if you've taken the jab, all I can tell you at this point is just plead for mercy from Jesus Christ, from the Lord. That's all I could say, is just that's your only option at this point, is just to absolutely plead for mercy, and to read the Bible and pray and fast like you never have before. So, it's just starting to get ridiculous how much they're demonizing and attacking those of us that have not taken the jab, and we know it's only going to get much worse. So I just wanted to move then to just talking just a bit more about this Andrew Cuomo sexual harassment story, this bit. So I'm going to play a quick clip here today from that.
Shannon, good evening. There are now reportedly enough votes in the New York State Assembly and Senate to impeach New York Governor Andrew Cuomo if he chooses not to resign. This, as a new poll says, nearly 60% of New Yorkers believe the governor needs to go.
Did you catch that number? 60. There's your 6. No coincidence. There's your, listen again, 60. There's your 60%, 60. There's your number 6, that we see that 6 all the time.
60% of New Yorkers believe. 60% of New Yorkers believe that nearly 60% of New Yorkers believe. Nearly 60% of New Yorkers. Nearly 60% of nearly 60% of New Yorkers believe the governor needs to go. Tonight, 74 needs to go.
And I have no other way to say it. That these people out here you see doing the protesting against Cuomo and the masks, these are, I got no other way to say it, what you'd call useful idiots. These are all just brainwashed, for, I don't know how else to say it, zombies essentially. And some of these may be paid actors. No coincidence here, we see the ringleader in a purple shirt. He's got the purple for the NWO, as we've talked about on this channel many times, and that's probably no coincidence at all, him with that purple. And there's a good chance this guy's a paid actor who's the ringleader of this circus. And as I talked about yesterday with this whole Cuomo sexual harassment bit, this is nothing more than distraction. It's no coincidence that story came out on the same day that de Blasio put into effect the health pass, the juice, the jab passport. And, the whole purpose of this Cuomo story is divert and to distract attention away from the jab passport, so that just slides under the radar, and people just silently go along with it, and they don't get upset about that or protest that. So this is what this is about, is getting these brainwashed useful idiots to protest what they want. So they go and they protest this Cuomo sexual harassment bit for him to resign, which is just a meaningless waste of time. So this is drawing their attention away from the real threat, which is the jab passport. And this is exactly what the devil and his pawns want, is for these people to take the bait in the mousetrap and to go and make a big deal and protest this Cuomo story, and to take their attention away from the jab passport, so they just blindly go along with the jab passport that Cuomo just instituted.
Believe the governor needs to go.
So, of course, they're protesting the Cuomo.
Believe the governor needs to go.
So, of course, you got people out in the streets of New York City or wherever, or wherever this is in New York, protesting, Cuomo for resignation, but not mentioning word about this draconian jab passport that has destroyed your constitutional rights and making you a second-class citizen. Something really on levels we never even saw during Jim Crow. This jab passport is the most draconian, law that we really have ever seen in this country. But of course, no one's talking about that. They're out there protesting Cuomo, this worthless, useless story that is nothing but a diversion and distraction, with the guy in the purple shirt as the ringleader.
Tonight, 74% of New York State lawmakers.
And of course, when we look at this little graphic, what pops out is all these sixes. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 sixes on there. Probably no coincidence there.
Mostly
we just see these sixes gone wild. So one more clip from today, yesterday.
There's a long history in this country.
And this was interesting, This is concerning the jab passport that Cuomo instituted in New York City. And what very few people are talking about is how this really is a racist policy. And this is the mayor of Boston. She's a Democrat. I've got no idea on her politics, but she makes a really good point here. Let's listen.
There's a long history in this country of people needing to show their papers during slavery, post-slavery, as recent as, what the immigrant population has to go through here. We heard Trump with the birth certificate nonsense. Here, we want to make sure that we are not doing anything that would further create a barrier for residents of Boston or disproportionately impact BIPOC communities.
So she makes a real good point there. This is like going back to Jim Crow, and this is like slavery, what's going on with this jab passport. I want to look at a couple photos here. First concerning Cuomo, I just want to give you a better idea of who this guy is. This may be old news for some on the channel, but here's Governor Andrew Cuomo. This was a clip from CNN. A little over a year ago. I think this is from like May or June of 2020, and so he's showing you exactly who he is here with the left hand, the 666 over his left eye, and it's one thing to do the 666, but when you put it over the left eye, it's just blatantly obvious you're showing who you serve. So here he is just blatantly showing you that he's a Mason and a Satanist, and of course he's got the purple tie on top of it. So this story with Cuomo, this is all a setup. It's a ritual. He'll probably skate on it. And if he doesn't, if somehow he loses his governorship, then it was a sacrifice. But this was all set up by the elites. It's a ritual, and it was meant to be brought out on the exact same day as the New York City Health Pass, the jab passport story, to divert and distract attention away from it. But so here you see who Cuomo is. He's in the club and is absolutely, it looks to be a Satanist. So one other story that came out today, the military is going to require the jab for all those in active service. No surprise. I guess the number they gave was 1.3 million. There's your 13. They're already starting to mandate all government employees get the jab. So they're just pushing it more and more. Now back to this story of racism. I absolutely agree that this NYC bill, this jab passport, is racist. So if we look at the numbers, these are the people that have fully received the jab in New York City. And you see the lowest jab rates are in the black community and the Hispanic community. Only 31% of blacks in New York City have been fully jabbed. So around 70% of the black community in New York City has not fully received the jab. And, as this mayor of Boston said, this absolutely is a racist policy because you're now requiring a white man. De Blasio is now saying that 70% of the entire black population of New York City now will not be able to dine in restaurants, to go to health clubs, to go to movie theaters, and basically to have any life unless they go and get the juice popped in them. Uh, so, really quite a blatantly racist policy, but you're hearing very little about that. Maybe a little bit on One America News or Fox News, but isn't it interesting how the woke media, Black Lives Matter and all this, how we hear nothing about race nonstop? This is, really the most racist thing I've seen, I'd say, in my lifetime. This jab passport policy, and how now the white governor of New York is instituting this mandate where 70% of the black community in New York City will no longer have the constitutional right to dine in restaurants, go to movie theaters, go to health clubs, go to all these public places, museums, unless they take this experimental jab and they take the juice. So just insanity, but that's where we're at right now in this country. And I want to just close with two scriptures. Isaiah 5:20, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, to put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. And that is what we're seeing right now is evil is being called good and good is being called evil.
This is banning mask mandate.
Children's parents, that's what he is. This dangerous criminal.
That's what we're seeing with Joy Behar and Whoopi Goldberg and all this is, just blatantly, evil is being called good and good is being called evil. Darkness is being taken for light and light is being taken for darkness. The Bible warned us of this in Isaiah. What we're really seeing, this increasing demonization of those that have not received the jab. And pretty soon, I think they're going to start using the word Christians and followers of Jesus Christ. John 16:2, they shall put you out of the synagogues, yea, the time cometh that whosoever killeth you will think that he doeth God service. So we're seeing that in these people that are starting to demonize the folks that have not received the jab harder and harder, this self-righteous tone where they're brainwashing the masses to think they're doing a good thing and almost a service to God to demonize these people who have not taken the jab because they're calling them killers and criminals and saying they're endangering lives. So they're brainwashing people to think that you're a good Samaritan or saving lives by demonizing those that have not received the jab. So very, very biblical what we're seeing going on. That's where we're at right now. So anyhow, hope everyone has a wonderful day. I'll be back with more here real soon. Take care.